This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
I go to your house and I started putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen. I bet you're going to kick me out.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops.
There are men and women right now that are on top of that mountain, and they are risking their lives to protect the citizens of this area.
Can government tell counselors what they can and cannot say in the counseling room?
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Not going anywhere. Upstate New York Congresswoman Elise Stefanik will not be the next ambassador to the United Nations. President Trump yanked her name this afternoon. It has nothing to do with her and everything to do with how close the vote is in the U.S. House.
It is essential that we maintain every Republican seat in Congress.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio has stripped U.S. visas from 300 college campus protesters.
If you invite me into your home because you say, I want to come to your house for dinner, and I go to your house and I started putting mud on your couch and spray painting your kitchen, I bet you're going to kick me out. Well, we're going to do the same thing if you come into the United States as a visitor and create a ruckus for us. We don't want it.
Rubio says they've overstayed their visit.
We gave you a visa to come and study and get a degree, not to become a social activist that tears up our university campuses.
Federal authorities have arrested the leader of the notorious MS-13 gang in Virginia. He's identified only as a 24-year-old man from El Salvador who is in the country illegally. FBI Director Kash Patel.
This is what happens when you let good cops be cops. And we're going to continue to let good cops be cops across this country.
Attorney General Pam Bondi with more on MS-13.
They're one of the most dangerous gangs in our country, and we are going to fight until they are completely dismantled.
There was a congressional hearing today on the collision between a military helicopter and an American Airlines flight near Washington's National Airport. NTSB Chief Jennifer Homendy.
I know we're all searching for answers, the right safety solutions. But the NTSB is the gold standard for accident investigations for a reason. We are thorough and we're fact-based. We leave no stone unturned, and we let the evidence guide us.
67 people were killed in that crash. The top Republican and Democrat on the Senate Armed Services Committee are requesting an investigation on the use of the Signal app to discuss military strikes in Yemen.
Asking for an expedited review of this Signal situation.
Down in the South, wildfires continue burning in the Carolinas. More than 6,000 acres destroyed, smoke and some ash raining down on the city of Greenville. Pickens County Sheriff Tommy Blankenship.
There are men and women right now as we speak that are on top of that mountain, and they are risking their lives to protect the property of the citizens of this area.
One of those fires was started by 4 teenagers. President Trump plans to slap new tariffs on imported vehicles next week.
This is the beginning of Liberation Day in America.
The new tax is to encourage more automobile manufacturing here in the States. Business analyst Christine Romans.
He wants factories moving back to the U.S. He wants more auto workers here. He wants high-end auto parts made here. He doesn't want the U.S. to be a place where you assemble cars. He wants cars made in America.
Missouri Senator Josh Hawley.
It's going to mean more auto jobs. It's going to mean higher wages. I mean, people in my state, in the state of Missouri, are cheering this, particularly our auto workers.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney calls the tariffs a direct attack on his country.
We'll defend our country, and we'll defend it together. This will hurt us, but through this period, by being together, we will emerge stronger.
Critics say the tariffs could slap another $3,000 to $6,000 onto the price tag of a new automobile. The Trump administration is planning to freeze $20 million in federal funding for Planned Parenthood. The freeze is expected to take effect today, the same day that hundreds of pro-life activists rally at the U.S. Capitol against Planned Parenthood, America's largest abortion provider. Adults around the world are leaving their childhood religion religions. The Pew Research Center surveyed 80,000 people in 36 countries and found over 1/5 of all adults have left the religion in which they were raised. Buddhism and Christianity have experienced the most losses from religion switching. And opening day is here. The 2025 MLB season gets underway today with 14 games on the schedule. Key matchups include the Milwaukee Brewers battling the New York Yankees, the Cleveland Guardians and Royals clashing in Kansas City, and the New York Mets and Houston Astros. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a plane nearly rolls over in Pennsylvania, Doge for New York State, and Save Women's Sports. It passes a committee in Pennsylvania. Those stories after weather next.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley with our Family Life forecast. Just a few clouds for most areas overnight tonight. There might be a brief shower in central New York locations east of I-81 this evening and perhaps over eastern Pennsylvania a little bit later in the evening, but nothing that will add up to very much. Temperatures overnight generally falling into the 30s. For tomorrow, clouds thickening, rain moving into Pennsylvania areas in the afternoon and perhaps the southern tier of New York as well. Temperatures tomorrow, upper 40s and low 50s across the region. More rain and warming temperatures tomorrow night. The rain will end, though, later at night. And then on Saturday, a lot of clouds, some sun at times over the southern tier and in Pennsylvania. Temperatures warm, 60s, maybe 70 in some spots, except north of the Thruway, where it will likely stay in the 50s with some steadier rain likely in the afternoon and temperatures cooling later in the day in those areas.
Thank you, Ken. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Republican leaders are proposing a Doge department for New York State. Assemblymember Jeff Gallahan and State Senator Mark Walczyk have filed twin bills in both houses to implement a commission on government efficiency. This one wouldn't be run by Elon Musk. Instead, Republican and Democratic leaders would each appoint 2 members, 8 total, serving 2 terms without pay to cut waste. Gallahan saying New York spending is, quote, out of control. The Pennsylvania Senate Education Committee has approved the Save Women's Sports Act. It protects female athletes by banning biological boys from girls' sports in K through 12 and collegiate level. Senate Bill 9, as it's known, now heads to the full Senate, where it is expected to win approval. Michael Geer with the Pennsylvania Family Institute says anyone opposed to this legislation may regret that vote next November.
When you go to election time, and this is an 80-20 issue that the vast majority of Pennsylvanians support, and I think it will be a campaign issue if indeed it doesn't get through the legislature and to the governor's desk.
House Democrats seem unwilling to take up Senate Bill 9, and even if they did, Governor Shapiro has already promised a veto. Rochester, New York is the latest flashpoint in the ongoing tug-of-war between sanctuary cities and the federal government on the issue of immigration enforcement. Rochester Mayor Malik Evans.
Our policy is crystal clear. City police officers do not help or participate in federal immigration activities. I've instructed the chief to make sure that every RPD officer receive more training.
The mayor is rebuking some Rochester cops who took part in a border patrol stop of a van this week that was transporting illegal immigrants. There was an incident at the Johnstown, Pennsylvania airport on Monday. This passenger tells WJAC what he experienced.
As we were just about to hit the runway, it went towards the left wing like it was going to roll. And as soon as I heard the noise, it straightened back up. Apparently that was the wing hitting that knocked us back to level, and we started rolling the opposite way. I heard him throttle, full throttle, to get out of it.
The FAA is looking into a report that the SkyWest jet's left wing struck the runway during the landing. Next at 5, a trip to the U.S. Supreme Court to defend Christian counseling in America. Let's listen in. This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish, and with me today, Alliance Defending Freedom attorney Cody Barnett. We're talking gay conversion therapy. Cody, tell me about the case before the U.S. Supreme Court of Christian counselor Kaylee Childs.
I'd be delighted to. The central feature of this case, can government tell counselors what they can and cannot say in the counseling room. A couple of years ago, Colorado enacted a law that said that counselors cannot give any counseling that would encourage a client to, quote, change his or her gender or sexuality. And it made only one exception for that, and that's if you're encouraging a client to change their gender to become in line with their thoughts rather than their body. This is a huge censorship effort by Colorado to push gender ideology in the counseling room and prevent parents and children from getting the help that they desperately need and want.
Why is Christian counseling necessary and needed?
This is an effort by the state to create a boogeyman of sorts by connecting some past practices with things that counselors like Kaylee Childs does not do and isn't even aware of anyone that does do them. All she does is talk and help clients reach the goals that they set for themselves. Many of these clients come to her with a shared Christian faith, and they want to live a life in harmony with the tenets of their Christianity. So they want her to help them reach those goals, including in areas of gender and sexuality. And you have Colorado saying, no, you can't do that. You cannot prioritize the tenets of your faith. It's just not appropriate for government to be telling clients or counselors how they can set those priorities in the counseling room.
Have Christians lost our voice in the therapy marketplace? On the outside, it seems to be okay until you cross the line you just mentioned on topics like gender ideology.
That is exactly the issue the Supreme Court has agreed to take up. Is what a counselor says to her client's speech protected by the First Amendment? There's a particular current to this case that this is not only speech, but it's speech grounded in faith, which the Supreme Court has been clear gets double protection from the First Amendment. The type of counseling they provide is protected by the Constitution.
You always run into trouble when you take away people's choices. Christian counseling versus secular counseling, my thought on it is if you don't want Christian counseling, don't go to a Christian counselor. Pick something else. But taking away the entire option of Christian counseling is a problem. It's something that shouldn't be happening in this country.
That's exactly right. And this is a particularly unique moment in history where there is a mental health crisis fueled in large part by the gender ideology confusion that is happening. You have many secular organizations recognizing the need for more counseling. So for Colorado to take options off the table, it's only hurting families. God has given all of us unique skill sets and abilities to be able to glorify Him, to be able to be out there on the front lines for His kingdom and to serve His people. And it gives meaning and purpose to the legal work that we do here every day.
Alliance Defending Freedom attorney Cody Barnett. Check out their website to learn more about religious freedom cases across the U.S. Be part of the work on the battlefield. You can find them at adflegal.org. You can subscribe, listen to, and share Faith Under Fire and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org under podcasts. Time next for tonight's market report brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Stocks are closing lower on Wall Street. At the final bell, the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell by 155 points to 42,299. The S&P 500 lost 18 points to 56,993, and the NASDAQ dropped 94 points to 17,804. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
Money is not the pathway to peace. Hi, I'm Rob West with today's Faith and Finance Minute. Psalm 62, written by King David, is about trusting the Lord, no matter what happens. David says about the Lord, trust Him at all times. Pour out your hearts to Him, for God is our refuge. Then there's this interesting line. Though your riches increase, do not set your heart on them. You know, we often tend to think if only I had more money, I'd be at peace. But this psalm makes it clear that money isn't the answer. Communion with God is the only pathway to peace. Indeed, King David says, truly my soul finds rest in God. My hope comes from Him. So to say it again, even if your riches increase, don't set your heart on them. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the FaithFi community. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, sharks make sounds. Some new science out. We invite you to listen in after one last look at weather.
This is meteorologist Ken McKinley with our Family Life forecast. Just a few clouds for most areas overnight tonight. There might be a brief shower in central New York locations east of I-81 this evening and perhaps over eastern Pennsylvania a little bit later in the evening, but nothing that will add up to very much. Temperatures overnight generally falling into the 30s. For tomorrow, clouds thickening, rain moving into Pennsylvania areas in the afternoon and perhaps the southern tier of New York as well. Temperatures tomorrow, upper 40s and low 50s across the region. More rain and warming temperatures tomorrow night. The rain will end, though, later at night. And then on Saturday, a lot of clouds, some sun at times over the southern tier and in Pennsylvania. Temperatures warm, 60s, maybe 70 in some spots, except north of the Thruway, where it will likely stay in the 50s with some steadier rain likely in the afternoon and temperatures cooling later in the day in those areas.
Thank you, Ken. Finally, at 5, we know what sharks look like, but now we have a better idea of the sounds that they make. CBS reporter Deborah Rodriguez.
A new study in the journal Royal Society Open Science reveals the first documented case of sharks making noise. Researchers who approached small rig sharks off New Zealand heard clicking noises produced when the fish forcefully snapped their spiky flat teeth. Until now, sharks were believed to be silent because they don't have swim bladders, which contain gas and produce sound.
And there you have it. That's the world that we live in for Thursday, the 27th of March. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.